Hi again then guys, and welcome to of course another speed build for Gran Turismo Sport, this time for a car which I've had a few requests for. You do occasionally see it online, the Mach 40 Mustang, aka the reskin for GT. Now this car is very good. If you want to classify it as a muscle car, it's one of the best in the game. Technically it's not a true muscle car, but you know, you could sort of say it is in a general sense. As far as the upgrades go, you want to drop the weight, of course, as far as it can go, increase the power as high as it can go. Then for the tyres, I would recommend super softs on both the front and the back, of course, for maximum grip. As far as the suspension, you want the ride height on 110mm, which is close to low, but not really super low. Then my signature setup for the suspension continues with the frequency being as high as possible. That really helps stability through the corners. You want anti-roll on 5. You could loosen that up a little bit if you want to, say to 4 or even 3. Test it, see what you prefer. As far as the compression and the rebound on the dampers, they are of course as low as possible. We've got 2 degrees of camber. The reason for that is because the car does 265 on its own, but of course you're going to be doing a lot more than that in most races, up around 300 or more. So having that extra little amount of camber really helps the stability much more, especially when you're undertaking someone rather than overtaking. Then as far as the toe, that is of course neutral. Downforce doesn't apply for this one. I've opted for the lowest initial torque and the lowest braking with the highest acceleration. And again, everyone has their own preferences as far as the diff, so you could change that if you want to. And finally for the gearbox, of course you want the fully customized transmission. I would recommend the highest auto setting. Then for the individual gears, as you can see, 2.5, 1.55, 1.15, 0.925, 0.775 and 0.675. And I would recommend a final drive of 2.7. Now for this particular tune, I would strongly recommend using a manual gearbox, and usually I don't. Many of you know I like to drive auto because I'm lazy, but for this one you really do need to use the manual to get the best out of it, because in auto it just doesn't change quick enough. Now if you're in a race where you've got a ton of slipstream, then it's not really an issue, but even then it will be better if you use manual, because changing way earlier than the red line is actually far more efficient in this car. It helps keep the acceleration very strong. So that's it for the tune, but now of course what you want to see is take it out on Route X and prove what it can do. Now, as I said, I would strongly recommend using that manual transmission setup, and as far as actually changing gear, I would recommend changing around the halfway point. So right above the line between the speed and the gear, that's where generally speaking you want to change gear. Then the only exception to that really is for 6th gear, because for 6th you want to change up when you're up around the high 240s, around say 247, 248. Then as you can see, you've got a ton of redline potential. If we change the view, for instance, you're at, what, between 6 and 6,500 RPM. You redline at closer to 8.5, 9. So you've got a huge amount of draft potential. You can easily draft this thing up around 300, if not more. And as far as the handling, it's not as stable as, for instance, a race car, of course, like a prototype or some of the Vision GTs, but it's certainly a fantastic foil for stuff like sports cars, definitely muscle cars, obviously. It blows most of those out of the water, and even a lot of the supercars in the game as well. So it's a great car, kind of an underrated one. Many people don't realise just how quick it is. So if you do decide to use this tune, I hope you have a ton of fun with it, and of course click right here on screen on the playlist and you can see all of my other tunes as well. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.